Between Black Ops 3 and Black Ops 4, there are 3 specialist characters that have not returned. Now, we've talked about how 2 of them tie into the storyline of Black Ops 4. First of all, we talked about Spectre and how it appears that Jessica Mason Green may actually be Spectre. After that, we talked about Outrider and how Outrider actually may be related to Recon in Black Ops 4. However, the one character we have not talked about so far is the robot, Reaper, from Black Ops 3. And today we're going to be talking about how Reaper ties into Black Ops 4 and whether or not it is actually possible that Reaper could be a specialist character in Black Ops 4. Now, as far as this series where I take an in-depth look at the Black Ops 4 story, you guys seem to really be enjoying it. The past few episodes have got tons of views and likes, and I really do appreciate that. So if you enjoy this series and want to see it continue, the best way to show me is just simply by hitting that like button. As always, the more likes this series get, the more likely I am to continue it and do more episodes more frequently. Now, before we hop into the actual story, I just wanted to let you guys know that I have started uploading stuff to my Instagram. It will be the first link down in the description. So if you have Instagram and want to check it out, I upload videos of gameplay, some pictures, and on top of that, some in-game images of top 10 emblems, paint jobs, that kind of thing. So if you're at all interested in that one, first link down in the description. But without further ado, let's get into it and talk about Reaper. So as far as the story of Reaper and looking at whether or not Reaper will be brought into Black Ops 4, there are 3 different sections we actually have to look at. The first of which is the Black Ops 3 information, aka the origin story of Reaper. After that is the information that we learn in Black Ops 4, and yes, there is some information in Black Ops 4. And the third piece of information is kind of this mystery part in between that we really have to piece together. And that part is really going to be the part that tells us whether or not Reaper can be in Black Ops 4. So to start things out, we have to understand who Reaper is. So let's start by looking at the origin story of Reaper. And to start this out, what we have to look at is Reaper's bio from Black Ops 3. And the first thing that you're going to notice right at the top is his actual name is Experimental War Robot 115, or EWR 115. Now that 115 is obviously a little bit of an homage or Easter egg to Element 115 from Zombies. Now when we go down and actually look at the bio, the first part of the bio states that Reaper was actually part of a cutting-edge research and development project for the military in order to help special operations soldiers in the field. Now, Experimental War Robot 115 was just a single unit out of a bunch of these robots that were actually made. Now, after these robots were made, basically some pretty bad things happened and they were forced to terminate the robots or get rid of them. However, EWR 115, aka Reaper, was stolen and was the only one to make it out alive. Now, since then, it is said that Reaper has been seen on several battlefields, but no one really knows who has him or who controls Reaper. Now, there are a lot of questions revolving around this. Who are the people that actually made Reaper? Is it Black Ops? Who is it? On top of that, who stole Reaper? And to this day, the biggest question of all is who is in control of Reaper? And we're going to try to address all of those questions in this video. Now, the next thing we're going to look at is the transmissions from Black Ops 3, and most of these transmissions are actually not Reaper talking, but rather Prophet. And what's going on here is that essentially Prophet is hacking into Reaper, because the thing we know about Prophet is he's actually 73% robot, which kind of gives him the ability to interact with the robot Reaper a little bit better than the other specialist characters. So as Prophet hacks into Reaper, he finds out several interesting things about him.
Initiating access now. Not gonna fry my DNI systems or anything.
Negative. Ident Prophet. Code level access granted. Active firewalls disengaged.
Alright, mate. Let's see if we can't get rid of those safety protocols. Interesting. Same basic file structure as a GI unit. So behavioral limitation should be... yeah. There we go.
Warning. Safety systems offline.
Easy, Tiger. File history on your core systems is insane. File rev 646,000? Who's making those revisions?
This unit.
Wait, what are you... You're saying this is recursive self-improvement?
Confirm. 645,624 revisions. This unit.
There is a lot to take out of that first transmission. First of all, the base body of Reaper, or the experimental war robots, is the same as GI units, which was a score streak in Black Ops 3. And you may be thinking, oh, well, we're already screwed. Reaper can't be in Black Ops 4. There's no GI unit. There actually is. As it turns out, the Safeguard robot in Black Ops 4 is once again a GI unit. So it's still possible that Reaper could be in Black Ops 4. Now, on top of that, as the transmission goes on, and Prophet explains that essentially Reaper, or EWR-115, is sentient, that he controls his own coding, updates himself, fixes himself, and that's pretty much that. Until Prophet later finds out that Reaper is actually being controlled. And here's what he says.
All you need to know is that this poor mechanical sod had been set up to receive commands that it had no choice but to obey, and all strictly aftermarket. So I pulled the code, set up some logs, and waited for the next set of commands to come in. And now I had it. I traced the data back to a server in Zurich, housed in an industrial zone, infiltrated a few more systems, did a bit of digging. Wasn't expecting what I found. The people who had stolen and modified Reaper were running an underground gambling ring for rich high rollers. The sums of money changing hands electronically over his body count were astronomical.
So what you can take away from this is that once EWR-115 was stolen as the last EWR robot, he was then taken to this gambling ring where someone inserted into his coding a way to control him and send him on specific missions. Then this gambling ring was actually betting on how well Reaper would do on these missions. So then Prophet took Reaper, reconfigured his coding, and made it so once again he was fully sentient, and sent him to Zurich, where the gambling ring was. Then in Reaper's final transmission, we get the most important piece of information of all, and here it is.
It's here! The EWR is here!
There is no EWR, only Reaper.
So EWR returns to the gambling ring in Zurich, busts down the door, and when people see him, he states that he is no longer EWR, he is Reaper. Then he goes on to kill everyone and move on with his life. But the big takeaway there is that before Prophet actually worked on Reaper, he wasn't Reaper, he was just EWR. In other words, Prophet actually gave Reaper his name, which is really important when moving forward and looking at the story. Now, the other important piece of information is we don't know when this story actually takes place. As far as the Black Ops 3 transmissions goes, a lot of those stories actually take place in 2045 as opposed to 2065 when Black Ops 3 actually takes place. So as far as Reaper's story, we don't know a time period on this one. So the next thing we actually have to look at here is the information we get from Black Ops 4, but not directly from the game, from the comic that Treyarch actually released before the game came out. And all of these comics, they have stated, are canon, so we can use these for Reaper's story. So the comic we are looking at here is Prophet's comic, but it gives us a lot of information about Reaper. So the part of the comic where we begin to see Reaper is he is working, or at least forced to be working, in a metal yard. And as you can see on top of Reaper's head, there's kind of this antenna, and at the very bottom there, you can see someone yelling at him saying, "Hey, rabbit." And during this, the worker at the scrapyard starts to be nice to him, but at the very end of the story, he then turns on him, hits him with a metal rod, and then yells at him to get back to work. And in this explains that he does way more work than anyone at the scrapyard, and they're basically using them as a robot employee. After this, Prophet and his friend are driving past the scrapyard when somehow Prophet's DNI is hacked. So they basically take it upon themselves to go investigate this scrapyard that's looking a little bit shady. So during this fight, Prophet ends up kind of getting chased into this underground area where he finds Reaper. And the most important scene of this whole thing is when Prophet runs through the door and yells, "Reaper, good to see you." Why is this important? Because we know based off of this scene that Prophet has seen, met, and interacted with Reaper before. As we know, Prophet gave Reaper his name, so this event that we are watching take place in this comic here actually takes place after the story we talked about in Black Ops 3. How do we know that? Because 1, the robot's called Reaper, and 2, Prophet actually recognizes him. Now, aside from this, there are some other things that do take place in this comic revolving around Reaper, but as far as deciding whether or not Reaper is going to be in Black Ops 4, those things don't really matter. So if you'd like to see me cover those in a future video, just let me know down in the comments. It's definitely something I'd be willing to do in a video. So as far as deciding whether or not Reaper himself can be in Black Ops 4, what we have to look at is this middle section, this area between the two games, and decide whether or not that area fits Black Ops 4's timeline. So the first thing we actually have to look at is not Reaper, but rather Prophet. When we look at the comics here and we look at the Black Ops 3 lore, we know the way that Prophet is able to interact with Reaper is because of 1, his direct neural interface, and all his cybernetic augmentations. As we know, Prophet actually gets his cybernetic augmentations in the year 2063. If we look at the character model of Prophet in Black Ops 4, he actually doesn't have any of his augmentations. One of his main augmentations is his arm, as we can see in the comics here, but when we look at him in Black Ops 4, he doesn't have the arms. Now, you might be saying, oh, he may have those augmentations underneath this jacket he's wearing, but if you actually look at what he's wearing elbow pads, and if you have metal arms, there is no reason whatsoever for you to be wearing elbow pads. Now, I have talked about in the past how that headband around Prophet's head could possibly be a direct neural interface, but at this point we don't know that for sure. The one thing I will say is that we do know that the events of Black Ops 4, and especially with Prophet, happen before Prophet meets Reaper. So is it possible that Reaper could be a character? As far as the storyline goes, no, it doesn't make sense. However, there is one big loophole where Reaper or another robot could fit into this game. Because as we know, because Safeguard is a game mode in Black Ops 4, the GI unit robot has already been made, which means the technology to make the advanced war robots is there. On top of that, we also know that there was more than just one advanced war robot actually made. There was a whole bunch of them made, then one of them did something bad, and all of them had to be destroyed. Technically, Black Ops 4 could exist before that bad thing happened, therefore, it could be any of the advanced war robots. It could be EWR-69 or EWR-420, whatever you want it to be. That could be the robot that they introduce into Black Ops 4. For them to specifically introduce Reaper, it would not fit with the lore. So specifically, only time will tell whether or not they introduce a Reaper-esque character, and I'm curious what you guys think down in the comments below. What do you think they should do to implement one of these characters? Do you agree with everything I said in the video? Do you disagree? Let me know what you think down in the comments. On top of that, if you enjoy this type of video, want to see more videos like this, I would really appreciate it if you could hit that like button. And also, if you're new to the channel and want to stay up to date on all my videos, the best way to do so is make sure you hit that subscribe button and have notifications turned on. But guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, peace out.
We are